In the shadow of Brooklyn's towering brownstones, where the summer rain hammered the pavement like 1,000 unspoken regrets, Elias Vargas clutched the crumpled eviction notice in his fist, his heart pounding as sirens wailed in the distance. He was 24, a ghost in his own life, abandoned by family who called his queerness a curse, scraping by as a barista in a city that chewed up dreamers like him. But that night, as lightning cracked the sky, a stranger's voice cut through the storm. "Hey, you look like you could use a hand." And in that instant, everything Elias had buried deep inside cracked wide open. The rain soaked through Elias's thin hoodie, turning the ink on the notice into a blurry smear of red warnings. He slumped against the graffiti-scarred wall of his walk-up in Bushwick, the kind of place where dreams went to die under peeling paint and the hum of faulty fluorescence. His phone buzzed once, another ignored text from his sister back in Miami, the one that read, "Mom's praying for you to change." Elias didn't reply. He never did anymore. At 24, with his sharp cheekbones hollowed from skipped meals and his dark curls plastered to his forehead, he felt like a relic in a world that moved too fast for the broken. Gay in a Latino family that clung to old-world machismo, it was a quiet exile, one that left him invisible, unwanted, a shadow slipping through the cracks of New York's relentless grind. He'd come to the city 3 years ago, chasing the myth of reinvention. A community college dropout with a sketchbook full of half-finished portraits and a barista gig at Luna's Brew, a hole-in-the-wall cafe in Williamsburg that catered to hipsters and heartbroken artists. Elias poured lattes with mechanical precision, his olive skin flushed under the steam, but his smiles never reached his eyes. Customers flirted sometimes, the bold ones with their easy confidence, but he always turned away, whispering to himself in the steam-clouded mirror of the employee bathroom, "No one wants the mess. No one chooses the wreckage." His last hookup, a fleeting thing with a tourist from Seattle, had ended with a polite ghosting and a text that stung like salt in a wound. "You're sweet, but I'm not looking for complicated." The storm intensified, thunder rumbling like the growl of his own doubts, and Elias pushed off the wall, trudging toward the subway. His sneakers squelched in puddles that reflected the neon blur of bodega signs and passing cabs. He didn't notice the figure jogging up behind him until a strong hand gripped his elbow, steadying him as he slipped on the slick curb. "Whoa, easy there," the voice said, warm and steady, laced with a faint southern drawl that cut through the downpour like sunlight. Elias whipped around, water dripping from his lashes, and met eyes the color of rich earth after rain, deep brown, framed by lashes that caught the streetlight's glow. The man was taller than him, broad-shouldered in a soaked leather jacket that clung to the defined lines of his chest, his close-cropped black hair beaded with rain. Mid-20s, maybe, with smooth mahogany skin and a jawline that spoke of quiet strength. He smiled, not the pitying kind Elias was used to, but something genuine, like he'd just found a long-lost friend in the chaos. "You okay?" the stranger asked, his voice carrying over the roar of traffic. "That notice looks like bad news. Let me grab you an umbrella from my truck. It's the least I can do for nearly causing a wipeout." Elias blinked, his throat tight. No one stopped for strangers in this city, not like this. "I'm fine," he muttered, but his voice cracked, betraying him. The man, Jamal, he learned in the next breath, as he extended a calloused hand, didn't back off. Instead, he shrugged off his jacket, draping it over Elias's shoulders without a second thought. It smelled like cedar and fresh rain, enveloping him in unexpected warmth. "Jamal Hayes," he said, grinning through the wet strands clinging to his forehead. "Just moved here from Atlanta for a freelance graphic design gig. Saw you from across the street. Couldn't let you drown out here alone." Elias hesitated, the weight of the jacket a foreign comfort. "Elias Vargas, And I live close. Really, you don't have to. But Jamal was already steering him toward a beat-up Ford pickup parked under a flickering street lamp, its bed loaded with moving boxes labeled in bold marker. Books, art supplies, second chances. He popped the door, rummaged for a massive golf umbrella, and held it over them both as they dashed to the awning of a nearby taqueria. The rain drummed on the fabric above, a rhythmic pulse that matched the frantic beat of Elias's heart. Inside, the place was a haven of sizzling carne asada and mariachi tunes crackling from an old radio. They slid into a vinyl booth, steam rising from their clothes like ghosts fleeing the storm. Jamal ordered 2 bowls of pozole without asking, his easy confidence filling the space between them. "So, Elias Vargas," he said, leaning forward with elbows on the scarred table. "What's got you out in this mess looking like the world's ending?" Elias stared into the steaming broth, the hominy bobbing like unanswered questions. He wasn't used to this, someone seeing him, really seeing the cracks. "Eviction," he admitted finally, the word tasting like ash. "Rent's up again, tips are shit, and my family's not an option. They think I'm—" He trailed off, heat rising in his cheeks. A disappointment. A sin. Jamal's expression softened, but there was no pity there, just a quiet understanding that made Elias's chest ache. "Family can be a battlefield," Jamal said, stirring his spoon absently. "Mine shipped me off to military school when they found out about me. Said it would straighten me out. Joke's on them. I came back with better abs and 0 regrets." He flexed his arm playfully, the motion pulling his damp shirt tight, and Elias couldn't help the small laugh that escaped, surprising them both. They talked then, words spilling like the rain outside. Jamal was 26, a graphic designer who'd traded Atlanta's humid embrace for New York's electric pulse, chasing gigs that let him blend street art with digital magic. He spoke of late nights sketching murals in abandoned warehouses, of the freedom in lines that defied convention. Elias shared fragments, his sketches hidden in a drawer, the way coffee steam reminded him of his abuela's kitchen back home, before everything fractured. By the time the storm eased to a drizzle, the taqueria emptying around them, Elias felt something shift. Not hope. Not yet. Just a crack in the armor, letting in a sliver of light. Jamal walked him to his door, the umbrella a shared shield against the lingering drops. At the stoop, under the buzz of a bare bulb, Jamal paused, his hand brushing Elias's as he handed back the jacket. "Listen," Jamal said, voice low and earnest. "I know we just met, but you don't have to face this alone. Not tonight. Not ever, if you don't want to." His eyes held Elias's, steady and unflinching, like a promise carved in stone. Elias's breath hitched, the vulnerability terrifying and intoxicating. No one had ever looked at him like that, like he was worth choosing. "Why?" He whispered the word raw. "Why me?" Jamal's smile was soft, his thumb grazing Elias's knuckles. "Because from the second I saw you, standing there like a storm all your own, I knew. You're not wreckage, Elias. You're the kind of beautiful that stops time." And in that whisper, under the indifferent stars of Brooklyn, Elias believed him. For the first time in years, he believed someone might stay. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving, the kind of light that seeped through cracked blinds and illuminated every unpaid bill scattered on Elias's kitchen table. He woke tangled in sheets that smelled faintly of cedar, Jamal's jacket still draped over the chair like a sentinel. Their goodbye had stretched into the small hours, Jamal insisting on helping him sort the eviction mess over lukewarm coffee brewed on Elias's ancient percolator. Maps of Brooklyn were spread out, redlined with affordable sublets Jamal knew from online forums, his optimism a balm against the panic clawing at Elias's throat. "You're not losing this place," Jamal had said, his knee brushing Elias's under the table, sending sparks up his spine. "Not on my watch. It was absurd. Jamal barely knew him, but the certainty in his voice made Elias cling to it like a lifeline. Now, alone in the quiet, doubt crept back in. Elias splashed water on his face, staring at his reflection, tired eyes shadowed with doubt, stubble framing a mouth that hadn't smiled in months. What does he see in me? The question looped endlessly as he pulled on jeans and a fresh shirt, the fabric still carrying Jamal's scent. His shift at Luna's started in an hour, and the thought of facing the rush without this fragile new anchor felt like freefall. The subway ride to Williamsburg was a blur of graffiti-tagged cars and weary commuters, the air thick with the scent of damp wool and desperation. Luna's was already buzzing when he arrived. Tourists in oversized scarves demanding oat milk matchas, locals nursing hangovers with black coffee. Maria, his boss, a no-nonsense Puerto Rican woman in her 50s with a laugh like thunder, eyed him over the espresso machine. "You look like you saw a ghost, Mijo," she said, sliding him a fresh apron. "Or maybe a handsome one." Spill. Elias flushed, fumbling a tamper. "Just a rough night." But Maria's knowing grin pulled more from him. The rain, the stranger, the eviction. She listened without judgment, her hands never pausing as she frothed milk into perfect hearts. "Sounds like fate's knocking, Elias," she said finally, pressing a to-go cup into his hands. "Don't slam the door. And take this, on the house. Tell your knight in shining armor Maria says hi." The day dragged, steam and chatter a monotonous haze, but Elias's mind wandered to Jamal's laugh, the way his fingers had lingered on Elias's wrist during their late-night planning. By closing time, his phone pinged, a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's your storm savior. Dinner tonight? My treat. Pick you up at 7? Elias's heart stuttered. He typed back before doubt could intervene. "Yeah, I'd like that." Jamal arrived precisely on time, leaning against his truck in a crisp button-down that hugged his frame, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms etched with faint tattoos, abstract swirls of color that hinted at stories untold. He held a bouquet of wildflowers, scavenged from a street vendor, their petals a riot of yellow and purple against the twilight. "For the guy who makes shitty days bearable," he said, tucking one behind Elias's ear with a wink. They drove to a soul food spot in Bed-Stuy, a cozy joint called Harlem Hearth where jazz hummed from hidden speakers, and the air was thick with the aroma of collards and cornbread. Jamal navigated the menu with ease, ordering fried green tomatoes and shrimp po' boys, his stories flowing like the sweet tea they shared. He spoke of growing up in Atlanta's suburbs, the son of a single mom who waitressed doubles, her fierce love the only shield against a father's absence and a town's whispers about her different boy. "Coming out was like lighting a match in a powder keg," Jamal admitted, his fork pausing midair. "Mom hugged me, said she'd fight God himself if he had a problem. But the rest? Schoolyard taunts, job interviews that ghosted after one too many questions. New York felt like a fresh canvas, no history to haunt me." Elias listened, his own scars surfacing in echoes. He told Jamal about Miami's humid nights, hiding sketches of boys who looked like him under his mattress, the day his father found them and roared, "This isn't us, Elias. Fix it or leave." The exile that followed, the bus ticket to freedom that tasted like loss. Jamal reached across the table, his hand enveloping Elias's, thumb tracing slow circles. "They were wrong," he said simply, voice thick with emotion. "You're not broken. You're a masterpiece they were too blind to see." The words landed like rain on parched earth, stirring something deep and dangerous in Elias, a hunger for more than survival. After dinner, they walked the blocks of Bed-Stuy, hands brushing until Jamal laced their fingers together, bold under the glow of brownstone stoops. At Elias's door, the kiss happened without fanfare, Jamal's lips soft and sure, tasting of salt and possibility, his hand cradling the nape of Elias's neck as if he were something precious. It was tentative at first, Elias pulling back with a gasp, eyes wide with the fear of shattering. But Jamal whispered against his mouth, "I've got you." And Elias melted into it, the world narrowing to the press of bodies and the thunder of his pulse. That night, as Jamal's truck rumbled away, Elias lay awake, the wildflower petal pressed between his fingers. For the first time, the silence of his apartment felt like invitation, not isolation. But dawn brought reality crashing back, the landlord's pounding fist on the door, a final notice taped to the frame, "Vacate by week's end." Panic surged, hot and familiar. Elias called in sick to Lunas, pacing the narrow confines of his space, boxes half-packed with the remnants of a life unlived. His phone buzzed. "Jamal, morning, beautiful. Coffee run later?" The endearment twisted the knife. How could he drag someone new into this? He didn't reply. Instead, he texted his sister, a Hail Mary, "Need a loan. Just this once." The response came swift and cutting. "You know why we can't. Change, Elias. For all of us." Tears blurred the screen as he sank to the floor, the wildflower crushed in his fist. Unwanted. Always unwanted. Hours blurred into a haze of what-ifs, until a knock shattered the spiral. Jamal, takeout bags in hand, concern etching his features. "You ghosted," he said softly, stepping inside without invitation, setting the food on the counter amid the chaos. "Talk to me." Elias broke then, words tumbling in a torrent. The notice, the family, the bone-deep fear that he was poison. Jamal listened, pulling him into an embrace that smelled of home, his chin resting on Elias's curls. "You're not poison," he murmured, voice fierce. "You're the only one I'd ever choose, Elias. Eviction, family drama, all of it, we face it together. I've got a spare room in my new place. Move in. Let me show you what choosing looks like." Elias pulled back, searching those earth-brown eyes for the lie, but found only truth, raw, unwavering. "Why?" he breathed again, the question a plea. "Because you make me want to be better," Jamal said, cupping his face. "Because in a city of millions, you're the one who feels like home." They kissed again, deeper this time, hands exploring with the urgency of souls long adrift finding harbor. Clothes shed in a trail to the bedroom, bodies intertwining under the afternoon light filtering through blinds. Jamal's strength a gentle anchor, Elias's touch a revelation of trust. It was more than passion, it was affirmation, each gasp and whisper a vow against the world's cruelty. But as they lay spent, limbs entangled, a shadow lingered. Elias's phone lit up on the nightstand, a call from an unknown number. He ignored it, burrowing closer, but the unease festered. Unbeknownst to them, across town in a sleek midtown office, Elias's past was stirring. His ex-boss from a short-lived internship, Victor Lang, a sharp-suited developer with a grudge and a closet full of his own secrets, had spotted Elias's name on a tenant blacklist. Victor, who'd fired him years ago after a drunken advance gone wrong, saw an opportunity for revenge and control. The week blurred into a frenzy of packing and paperwork. Jamal's new loft in Greenpoint, a sunlit space with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the East River, became their sanctuary. It was a far cry from Elias's cramped walk-up, wide plank floors scattered with Jamal's sketch pads, a kitchen island perfect for late-night brainstorming sessions over takeout. They christened it with laughter and flour-dusted hands, attempting Jamal's mom's cornbread recipe, the air filling with the scent of butter and cayenne. "You're a natural," Jamal teased, wiping a streak of flour from Elias's nose, his touch lingering into a kiss that tasted of batter and belonging. Elias grinned, the expression foreign but fitting. "Liar." but I'll take it. For the first time, he sketched openly portraits of Jamal at rest, his profile sharp against the river's gleam, capturing the quiet fire in his eyes. Jamal hung them unframed on the walls, declaring, "This place needs your soul in it." Work steadied too. Maria at Luna's promoted him to shift lead, her gruff pride a quiet victory. Evenings were theirs, strolls along the waterfront, where Jamal pointed out graffiti tags he'd designed, his hand warm in Elias's. Intimacy deepened, nights tangled in sheets where whispers turned to confessions. Jamal's fear of commitment after too many flings that fizzled, Elias's terror of abandonment etched from childhood betrayals. "You're stuck with me now," Jamal murmured one dawn, tracing patterns on Elias's bare back as gulls cried outside. No escaping. Elias believed him, the word's a talisman. But the call he'd ignored that day returned, insistent voicemails piling up. Curiosity won out midweek. He played them in the loft's quiet, Jamal at his side. "Elias, it's Victor. Long time. Heard you're in a bind. Rent troubles? I can help. Meet me. Coffee my treat." The voice was smooth, oily, laced with something predatory that made Elias's skin crawl. Jamal's brow furrowed. "Ex-boss. The one who—" "Yeah," Elias cut in, voice tight. "Fired me after I turned him down. Drunk at the office party, cornered me in the supply room. HR buried it to protect him. He hadn't spoken of it fully, the shame a weight he'd carried alone." Jamal's jaw clenched, protective fire in his gaze. "You don't know him shit. Block him." But Victor persisted. Emails now, offers of connections for steady work, veiled threats about old stories resurfacing if Elias didn't bite. Paranoia seeped in, tainting their idyll. Elias withdrew, sketches going unfinished, his touches hesitant. Jamal noticed, of course, pulling him close during a rainy evening movie marathon. "It's not you," Elias confessed, curled against Jamal's chest, the scent of popcorn mingling with storm-damp air. "It's him. Like he's waiting to prove I'm not worth it." Jamal tilted his chin up, eyes fierce. "He doesn't get to define you. We do. Together." Their lovemaking that night was urgent, reclaiming. Jamal's hands mapping every inch as if to etch permanence. Elias's moans a release of held breath. Yet the tension coiled. Victor's messages escalated. A photo of Elias at Luna's, time-stamped yesterday, caption "Missed you at coffee." Stalking. Elias's hands shook as he showed Jamal, the loft's warmth suddenly claustrophobic. "We go to the cops," Jamal said, voice steel. "Document everything. He's not touching you." The precinct in Greenpoint was a fluorescent-lit limbo, officers taking statements with practiced detachment. "Harassment's common," the detective said, a weary woman with a no-nonsense bun. "File a report, get a restraining order." But these types, they push boundaries. Elias nodded, numb, Jamal's arm a steady anchor around his shoulders. Back home, they fortified, deadbolts checked, blinds drawn, but sleep evaded Elias. Nightmares of shadowed figures blending Victor's smirk with his father's disdain. The breaking point came Friday night. Elias closed Luna's alone, the streets slick with fresh rain, his mind on Jamal's promise of a quiet dinner. A black sedan idled curbside as he locked up, Victor emerging like a specter, tall, blonde, his designer coat impeccable against the grime. "Elias," he called, voice honeyed venom. "We need to talk." Heart slamming, Elias backed toward the alley. "Leave me alone, Victor. I've reported you." Victor's laugh was low, chilling. "Reported? For what?" "Old water under the bridge. I know things, Elias. About that internship theft rumor I started. About your preferences that could tank your little coffee gig. One call to your boss, and poof, back to scraping by." Rage and fear warred in Elias's chest. "You don't own me. Not anymore." But Victor advanced, grabbing his wrist, breath hot with scotch. "I made you, boy. I can unmake you too." The scuffle erupted, Elias wrenching free, knee connecting with Victor's thigh in a desperate bid. Shouts echoed, drawing a passerby who yelled for police. Victor bolted, cursing, but not before hissing. "This isn't over. You'll come crawling." Elias crumpled against the wall, sobs racking him, the rain mingling with tears. Sirens wailed distant, but it was Jamal who appeared first, racing from his truck 2 blocks away, alerted by a frantic text Elias had managed mid-grapple. "Baby," Jamal breathed, enveloping him, shielding him from the downpour and the world. "I've got you. Always." The aftermath was a whirlwind. Police statements under harsh lights. Victor's sedan traced to a midtown garage via CCTV. The detective, now invested, uncovered a pattern. Victor's history of silencing ex-employees, a trail of NDAs and payoffs. By dawn, an arrest warrant circulated, the pieces falling into place. Elias and Jamal holed up in the loft, the river's churn a soothing backdrop. Bruises bloomed on Elias's wrist, a fading map of violation, but Jamal tended them with ice and kisses, his presence a fortress. "He can't touch us," he whispered, as they lay entwined, the city's pulse thrumming below. "Not while I'm here." Healing was slow, layered. Therapy sessions for Elias, unearthed through a queer support group Jamal found online. Circles of survivors sharing stories under rainbow banners in a cozy East Village center. Jamal attended too, his vulnerability a gift. "I thought strength meant carrying alone. You taught me sharing the load makes us unbreakable." Their love deepened in the quiet victories, a joint art show where Elias's portraits of Jamal sold out. Bold lines capturing not just form but fire. Lazy Sundays with Jamal's playlists of old R&B, bodies swaying in the kitchen to the rhythm of chopped onions and simmering pots. Victor's trial loomed months later, a sterile courtroom in downtown Manhattan where his polished facade cracked under cross-examination. Elias testified, voice steady, Jamal's hand in his under the bench, a silent vow. The verdict: guilty on harassment and assault charges, a 2-year sentence that felt like justice's whisper. As they emerged into spring sunlight, cherry blossoms drifting like confetti, Elias turned to Jamal, the weight of years lifting. "You chose me," he said, simple and profound, when no one else would. Jamal pulled him close, foreheads touching amid the bustle. "And I'd choose you again, every time. You're my only one, Elias. Always."